What does being a father mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult question to answer. What does it mean to me to be a father? Something I often talk to other dads or other parents about, which people sometimes aren't very honest about. And I say, when my daughter Alex was born, it wasn't love at first sight for me. I had this feeling of duty to care for her. My wife lost some blood during birth, so I was looking after Alex for about an hour, probably just as she was born. And I just had this overwhelming sense of duty that it was my job to care for her and to look after her. But it felt different than love. And then as time went on and I got to know Alex more, and I was her primary carer when my wife went back to work, kind of that duty, I guess, blossomed into love. And being a father meant that I get to share all my passions with my daughter, and we would then discover what her passions were. And it all feels a bit messed up now that she's dead. And I have my son Brody, who was born 6 weeks after Alex died. So I find it difficult looking to the future now. But to me, being a dad, I guess, meant just having a bunch of little people that I loved and that loved me, and we just did things together. We would do things together that we enjoyed. Maybe it would be a TV show, maybe playing in the paddling pool or crawling around on the beach together laughing. That was being a dad to me.
How has becoming a father changed you?
Being a dad has definitely changed me. Alex was born deaf, and we found out she was deaf when she was 2 weeks old. And that was really a really difficult thing to deal with. I guess we grieved the loss of her hearing. It felt like in that moment, all these things that I wanted to do with her were being taken away. And the change it, I guess, made in me is that we knew immediately that we would learn BSL, British Sign Language, and it was, our goal with Alex to not let her be behind other people, which is what people thought she would, but to actually excel. And Alex died when she was 16 months old, and she knew how to sign 37 different signs, which is amazing, and she can understand a lot more. And it just changed, I guess, my levels of dedication and love. And now it's all mixed in with the grief because she's gone. The most beautiful thing I think I've ever seen is Alex doing sign language, and that was, the culmination of really many months or, her entire life to see her equipped and do that. And to be really honest, now she's died, in some ways it just feels like life is over. So I don't really feel like I can give an answer to how being a dad's changed me in a normal way, because it changed me in what I thought was a really beautiful way, because of the life we all had together. And now she's gone. She's just this ever-present person, but she's dead and not with us, and it's really painful. And so being a dad now, more than anything, just feels painful and difficult, and something that I have to live with till I die.
What did grief look like to you in the days and weeks following the passing of your child?
It's difficult because I feel like you see these interviews and things of other stuff, and they're often very positive, but this is a subject where there isn't positivity, and I read somewhere online, I thought it was really good, it said, people often expect those going through grief to come out of it stronger, or to have found some meaningful thing or life lesson out of it, but actually it's just good enough that the person going through this is still here and is still surviving, and it's too much to expect someone to be better because of this. I'm not going to be better because of this. My life and who I am will be worse because of it. And there might be some positives that over time that I can maybe take from this, where maybe I think I have more empathy for certain things, and I think I can potentially understand certain people's pain more, but I would trade everything in to have the life I did.
What words of advice would you give to anyone becoming a father for the first time?
It's difficult to know what advice I would give to someone becoming a father. I don't really like giving advice, to be honest with you, especially now. I think it's really simple and really obvious. Just love your children, and more specifically, spend that extra time being with them, make that extra effort. I remember there's a moment I often think about when I went to go make lunch for Alex and I was holding her, and as I went to put her down, she clung tight to me, just a thing that kids do. And then there's that moment in your head where you think, am I just going to put them down anyway and do this job, or do I stay there? And I always tried to just stay there and kind of hug her and cuddle her, and just in that moment, just holding her, I remember feeling this won't be forever, because kids grow up and one day they might not want you that way. And so if I had to give any advice, it would just be to love your kids, and when they want your love, just give it to them. It's difficult to talk about my family, I think, because I have my family when Alex was here, which was me, my wife Kay, and Alex, and then Alex died, and now it's me, Katie, and Brody, and so it feels like two families. Even though it's not two families, it's one family. I want to say positive things and good things, but it's not. Not because of the people in my family. The people in my family are the best. But, the tragedy of Alex's death just, it taints everything.
What did grief look like to you in the days and weeks following the passing of your child?
When Alex died, immediately our friends kind of descended on us. I remember the next days, weeks, we just had people around the house, people bringing us meals or baking cakes, going for walks, just being there with us, showing us love. And the feeling I would describe sort of immediately after Alex died was when you have your community, it feels like, your friends, your family, you're all like this. And then when Alex died, it's like we're torn apart and put on this remote island. And you're aware that you'll never get back to where you were before. It's not possible for things to ever be as they were. But all these things, all this love, all these efforts that our friends were putting in, this time we spent together, it's like trying to build a bridge closer to each other again, even though it's kind of futile, and you have this life experience that it's so big, it's so vast that it's not really understandable fully by people. But it was, I don't know, it's hard to put really. They put the love and effort in, and I guess we all did, as though the gap could be bridged, even though it's futile. And a thing we've said is we've never experienced love like we experienced when Alex died by those around us, and I wish everyone else could experience that love but not go through what we went through. And it's a shame that it takes the worst thing you can imagine happening to experience that love from people. And I think that's my enduring memory of right after when Alex died, was just how surrounded by people we were. Yeah, it was amazing.
What does grief look like now?
6 months on from Alex's death, I think when people think of us now, they probably just imagine, I don't know, that we're some form of sad or really sad, or that things are difficult. But grief is much more complex than that. As a family, we still go for beautiful walks on the Pembrokeshire Cliffs. We play board games with our friends, whether it's competitively or cooperatively. We do all the things that used to bring us happiness, and to a degree they do. But Alex's death kind of hangs over everything. I read a book, and the way the author described it is they said they still have all the colours of their rainbow, so they can still have laughter and happiness and sadness and tears, but now he has like this black strip on his rainbow, and that's his grief. And I think that's accurate. It isn't just one emotion all the time. It's all the emotions you used to experience, but it's just sort of mixed in with, the loss of the person I love most in this world, and I continue to love the most.
What do you wish people did more of in relation to your grief?
Sometimes people have said, you keep busy distracting yourselves, or we could do this to distract you, and I don't want to be distracted by meaningless things just to pass time. I want to also be with my grief, because that's what I have left of Alex. An analogy I've said to some people is, I'm in this hole, and the strongest person in the world can pull me out of the hole, and I don't even want to get out of the hole at this point. It's my place, but if my friends or family, whoever it is, can bear to be in the hole with me and spend time with me, that's actually what I desire. And even though it's quite overwhelming thinking of Alex sometimes, that's what I have left of her. And what I've learned about grief is it's not just this thing you go through and that you get over. To me, grief is what love looks like when the person who's no longer there to receive that love is able to receive it. So some days grief is talking about Alex, other days it's crying, some days it's getting her sign name tattooed on me, or a tattoo on my leg. It could be playing a board game. It could just be sitting on a cliff and crying. It could be anything. Grief can't really, or the grief of losing my daughter can't really be explained by words. Words just feel completely inadequate and fall completely short of expressing how much I love my daughter and what it's like living without her.
What do you wish people did less of?
There's a few things I wish people did less of. I find it difficult when people ask me how I'm doing. This can be particularly difficult when I'm in public or at work, because when someone says, "Oh, hey Sam, how are you?" it feels like I'm being immediately confronted, potentially taken off guard with my grief. And it's like someone saying to me, "How are you feeling today now that your daughter's dead?" And part of my commitment to Alex is I'm not going to say people, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay," but neither do I particularly want to unload on them, all my feelings about Alex and how much I love her and her death. So I often just say to them, "I've been better, how are you?" And I try and move the conversation on more. And what I found more valuable is some people just, when they see me now, they just say, "Hey Sam, it's good to see you." And there's no pressure that I have to unload my feelings or how I feel. And I think another thing that people often say or text, which is quite difficult, they say, "Oh, if you need anything, or if I can do anything, just shout." And I mean, it's awkward anyway asking people for things. And then, this situation, Alex's death adds this extra layer to things. And what we found just really the most beautiful and the most helpful was when someone just messages and say, "Hey, I'm making you a meal tomorrow. Do you want a roast dinner or a lasagna?" Or, "Oh, we're going to pop over in the next few days on this day. Let us know if it's not appropriate." And it takes away any pressure that we have to really make a decision. Something that's really difficult when you're in the middle of dealing with the loss of a child or grief is decision making. Decision making is really difficult. Things that were previously simple become very hard. And so if you know somebody in this situation, take those decisions away from them, because they probably don't care beyond you doing something nice for them. I also struggle with people who, I think, try to fix things. I think culturally we try and fix things. So if I lost my job, and someone said, "Oh, hey, I'm really good at making CVs. Can I help write a CV for you? That would be useful." But your child dying is the most broken thing there is, and it can't be fixed. And I know people try and comfort us, but actually I don't believe there's any real comfort left. The thing I find closest to comfort, the day Alex died and I carried her body into hospital, I met my best friend there, and he said, "This is so rubbish. I'm really sorry." And he hugged me and we cried together. And him acknowledging how bad the situation was offered me the only version of comfort that there is, because he shared with me by saying how rubbish it was and that he was sorry. It let me know he has some understanding of what's been lost with Alex's death. I find it difficult too. I don't have a religious belief. I don't believe in an afterlife, and I find it quite difficult around people who talk about those things, because to me that's not true. And what I'm trying to deal with is accepting that Alex is dead and gone as somebody can be. To me, every part of Alex has died with her. Well, even though saying that, the idea of me dying doesn't carry the same weight that it used to. I actually look forward to the idea of when I'm older, hopefully, and I'm no longer here, that I will be cremated, turned to dust like Alex, and wherever it is we settle, somehow we'll be settling together.
What can you tell us about the grief of losing a child that people won't know?
Part of the grief of losing a child that I think people maybe don't think about or consider because they don't need to, is that it's not just one thing. It keeps growing. So with our son Brody, who was born 6 weeks after Alex died, he's now 4.5 months old. We do things with Brody obviously every day. We went in the hot tub the other day for the first time with him. And all we were thinking about is that his sister should have been there. And as you keep living and having these experiences as a family, or seeing Alex's old friends who are now, growing up, and Alex never will, you're persistently confronted with what should have been and isn't anymore. And grief isn't always looking back at the past and the sadness that they're gone. It's about really the entire future that we should have had together. After Alex was born, I should have always known Alex, and then one day I would have died and she would have had her friends, her family, and her brother. And I find I feel that mostly when we come away from things like this, or gatherings of people, and we're just alone at home, and I don't know, I'll go grab a shower and I just usually just cry in the shower because I'm just left in my thoughts, and I just think about how much I love Alex, and no matter what I do, I can never have her back. And so I do sign language to her every day. I kind of go through the routine that I did when I would put her to sleep for her naps. So I'll just say, "Alex, I love you," or "Daddy loves you, Alex." And above her bed, she had like a solar system, and so we used to just go space and like point to the solar system. And I would just say, "Close your eyes and go to sleep, Alex." And sometimes, as she got better with her sign language, when I was being too slow putting her to bed, she would just do this, and she'd point at her bed. And seeing Alex do sign language is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I think it always will be. And it's something I'll always miss. Sign language to us is really special. And we did our best to dive headfirst into deaf culture, because we made a commitment that we would always help her with everything that we could. And when somebody dies, you don't just lose them, you lose the things that you did with them, or the things that you did because of them. You lose much more than just somebody that you used to know. I sometimes get asked how Alex's death compares to my dad's death. My dad died when I was 27. My dad was 58, and he died of cancer. He died over, I guess, 14 months, or I think it was about 14 months from when we knew he had cancer. And someone said to me that you start grieving the loss of someone from the moment you know they're going to die. And we spent a lot of quality time together, and in the final few months he deteriorated, and he was no longer the person he was, and he died. And actually there was a feeling of relief when he was dead, because he was no longer suffering, and my dad wouldn't have wanted to carry on the way he was in those last few weeks. And when I think about my dad's life, I think, he had largely a great life. He was happily married, he had children, he had a career, he had friends, he experienced a lot of things in those 58 years. And when I sum up my feelings on my dad being dead, I guess I just think of sadness. It's really sad. He never met any of my family now, or he never met our cats, and he loved animals, and never went to my wedding, and that's all really sad. Alex, she died from sepsis, and from the moment we realised she was poorly, she was dead in less than 24 hours. And it's not sad that Alex is dead, it's a tragedy that Alex is dead. There are not things that I cling to that you can go, at least this or at least that. Alex should have had a full life, and that's what we all prepared for as a family. That's what we invested in. That's how we loved each other, as though we were going to be with each other for the rest of our lives, and that they would be full lives. So for me, they're not really comparable. They're really different losses. And for me, Alex's death really is untouchable by any other person's death that I might know, because I loved her more than I've ever loved anybody. And I guess I don't see that changing either.